Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts and other stuff they're involved in. My guest today was inspired at a young age by Bruce Lee, an immigrant from Iran who moved to the U.S. at age 14. He studied martial arts for over 45 years with such notables as Steve Sexton, Grandmaster Ji Han Jae, and former guests of the show, David Meyer and Ron Balicki. His school is named Team Karate Center because he believes that the instructors and the students should work together as a team so that each student can find and create their individual art within the traditions of Hapkido. Please welcome my guest today, Mr. Fariborz. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Brian. Pleasure to be here, man.
Hey, I appreciate your time. I know it's how busy people can be, so I definitely appreciate anytime someone's willing to do this show with me. So I truly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. No problem. I know we had some challenge about making this happen, but we finally got it.
Hey, it's, I think my longest with a guest was about a year and a half going back and forth, finally trying to get something scheduled. So this isn't bad.
I tell you, I'm watching. I'm looking at some of the pictures of some of the people you've done, man. A few of them I don't know, but you got some of my heroes, man. David Myers, man, he is the man.
Yep, yeah, I love David. He was just recently.
Sifu Ron, Sifu Ron, who both of them, and Grace, who I'm very fortunate. Grace actually, Graciela teaches at my school on Tuesday nights. Tonight, she teaches boxing. And Ron teaches on Saturday morning, teaches Filipino martial arts.
Okay, nice.
And so it's cool to see all these people there.
Yeah, I've been lucky, and I've had quite a few of them mention your name. That's why I reached out. So, and I'm trying to remember who first mentioned your name to me, and I don't, man. I mean, you're what we're recording now is going to end up being episode 182. So I definitely don't remember all of them. As far as what specifically they told me and stuff.
Well, I hope it was a positive mention. So.
Oh yes. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have reached out.
Yeah.
If they would have been like, "Yeah, that guy's a jerk," I probably wouldn't have reached out.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
No, pretty sure it was good stuff. So that's good.
That's cool.
But what I like to do with all my guests, I kind of mentioned you were inspired by Bruce Lee, but I want to go back to the very beginning. I want to know where that first started, where that first spark came from, that first interest in martial arts, and just kind of walk us through that very beginning of your martial arts journey.
Sure. Well, as you might know, I'm Iranian. I was born in Iran. I came to U.S. when I was about 14 years old. And I think my journey in martial arts started when I was 10, when the, Five Fingers of Death started coming in, some of the stuff. And most of those movies were never translated. So I just watched the movies. My brother used to take me every Friday to a martial art movies because he knew I like it. We did that for a couple of years. Then the Enter the Dragon came. And that was it. I think I saw Enter the Dragon in Iran over 100 times, let alone here for so many times, And remember, these are not, voiceover or anything,
Mm-hmm.
So I just loved it. I knew this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And, opportunity came that I, came and moved to U.S. And then when I was here, I looked for different martial arts, and purely by accident, what a great accident it was. Actually, I found Cam Ewan who taught Thai Mantis in Torrance.
Okay.
I was there for about 3 months. But I just wanted more than the Chinese martial arts didn't do its thing for me. So when I moved to the Valley, San Fernando Valley, which is north of LA, I found Hapkido. I found Steve Sexton. And as soon as from the first day, I just knew that that's the art that I want to continue studying. And then I studied with him for a long time, then had the opportunity to buy the school from him and took over.
Wow.
Then I started seeking out different, we can talk about this before, but I'm very, I have a distinction between a teacher, instructor, and a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted more, I wanted teachers in my life. So, and believing in the fact that I'm not good enough, or I don't want to be good enough, or if that's being good, I don't want to mix shit up. If I want something, I literally go find the best and I pay for it and I learn it. And I've really been fortunate enough to have access to some of the best in the world in particular systems.
Okay.
And I'm proud to say most of them I can consider and call my personal friends.
Nice. So back to that very first school with Steve, when you first walked, you said from the very first day you knew it. So what was it? What are some of the things that stood out about Hapkido? Obviously very different than the Chinese style you had studied for a few months.
Yeah.
What was it about it that jumped out?
I would say presence. I think it was Steve's presence. About that's the same thing got me into Bruce Lee. It wasn't so much of what he was doing, is who he was while doing it. There was certain presence that I was very attracted to, and I found the same thing with Steve Sexton. And as you know, for me, a good martial artist is your character and your competency. Those two have to go hand in hand for me to look up to you. Because I've had many, many, many martial artists who are great martial artists, but I wouldn't trust them with my daughter. You know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the same time, I met many people that are nicest people in the world, but they can't do shit, So I don't know. I've always looked for the balance of character and competency, who you are and what you can do. And Steve was just that in that moment in my life. That's how it was. And I loved the kicking. I think the kicking really was attractive to me. I really wanted to do kicks. I like the hand techniques. Mm-hmm. So that's why I was so attracted to Hapkido.
Okay, and I know a lot of people who maybe don't know the art as well. They hear Hapkido and the first thing they think of is just hands. A lot of them don't realize there's kicks too. It's so. What would you say? I know, like I do traditional Taekwondo. That's my core system, and my instructor says our system's about 50% hands, 50% feet. What would you say Hapkido is probably?
Well, I mean, Hapkido's evolved so much, and I don't really teach Hapkido anymore. I teach, kind of a Hapkido blend.
Okay.
And my blend is the same thing that I've learned from Sifu Ron. It's multicultural martial arts based on usefulness. So, it's traditionally Hapkido was a lot of hand techniques, not so much punches and strikes, but like joint locks, because it drives back from Daiterui Aikido Jutsus, which was a Japanese system. Then it was mixed with Taekyon, which was the original kicking style of Korea. Then, kind of got together. But Ji Han Jae was the one that really added a lot of the spinning kicks, and that's what Bruce Lee was really attracted to. Then they worked together. Then he was in Game of Death, and kind of with all that. But I just found it to be liberating. That Steve was like, if you ever ask him what, a question about a technique, his, answer will always be, well, what do you think?
Nice.
So the whole idea of the empowerment was kind of dialed into me right from the beginning, Okay. Then I started seeking, like I said, when Steve stopped teaching, then I started looking at different teachers. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud to say Sensei Benny DeJet is with us right now for the last 15 years. He's nice. Been, teaching in my school. So I have some, like I said, I have access to some of these people who constantly keep me on my toes. Like Sensei Benny always, really quietly with class, always, when he sees me teach something, he always asks afterwards, says, Fariborz, what was the purpose of that? And in the beginning, I didn't have a whole lot of answers. I was like, well, that's how I was taught, but little by little things started kind of making sense, and everything got tied in together.
Okay.
Then I started with Ron and doing the Filipino martial arts, which, I'm in love with. So it all kind of evolved into what it is right now, which is really distance-based.
Okay.
So we fight far away. We do kicking, we do punching, we do trapping, we do stand-up joint manipulations. Then we take down to the ground. We do jiu-jitsu.
Okay. So after Steve quit, what was the first style you started to then blend into yours and start learning after Hapkido?
After Steve was the first. No, after Steve, because Hapkido doesn't have any forms.
Okay.
So when I was really attracted to forms.
Oh.
Right. Okay. I don't know why. I just loved because I was kind of a loner, so I wanted to do things on my own. So forms was the answer for me. But I didn't know any forms because Hapkido doesn't have any forms. So I just, went to the tournament world. I started doing some tournaments and learned some of the forms, and, I wanted to do stuff that I could do on my own. So tournament circuit was the big thing for me. just kind of to be out there, do showmanship or the musical forms or weapons, stuff like that. But nothing formally. I was never taught formally how to do, the forms.
Really?
But we do have 5 simple forms that we teach for our black belts. So, and that's mainly because, Hapkido traditionally doesn't believe in set patterns of movements. Neither do I. But my understanding, my belief system is always, well, you can't say you don't like set patterns of movements unless you know some. So the whole point was, right? So it truly, the person who's been prisoned can explain the true meaning of freedom after he's out. Right? I mean, you know what I mean? So you have to have that point of reference. But I love forms, and it's like I said, I very nominal in our system. We do some, and so that's how our system kind of evolved to be, what it is now.
Okay. You mentioned tournaments and competition. Do you remember your first ever tournament you competed in?
Yeah, I do actually. It was Dennis Ishikawa in Tarzana. It was a local in the schools that I went to. It did forms, and when those guys were Tom Sudo stylists, I think I took third, but for not having any forms and stuff. Even though when I introduced myself being Hapkido stylist, I remember the instructors going, "Hapkido doesn't have any forms. You doing forms?" Their face were kind of like, "What?" Anyway, so yeah, I did that, but I was proud because I got a chance to do a form on the stage on the Ed Parker's International, the 25th anniversary.
Wow!
On the Sunday night, which was the finals, and everybody who's who and who was there. Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee's wife, and all these people were there, and I was one of the guest people because I took the championship, and they wanted me to do a musical form. So that was like the highlight of my martial arts training as far as competition goes. But I was really never that good at it, so it just kind of died down after that.
Did you only compete in forms? Did you ever compete in sparring or
no,
weapons?
No, I never did sparring.
Okay.
I did. Yeah, it was not, point fighting was never my thing. There were so many people who were so much better and faster and the whole game. And I just, it wasn't my thing.
Okay. And I know you had mentioned at one point you ended up buying Steve's school and taking that over. So what led to that? What drove you down that teaching path and made you want to do that? Because that's definitely not for everybody.
Well, I was actually a red belt.
Okay.
When Steve said that he wants to close the school and he's done kind of teaching, he wanted to retire. And so upon that, he kind of gave me the opportunity. He goes, "Do you want to kind of take over?" And then, I took over, and obviously every student that we had quit, and it was just me. Wow. And but I tested from a black belt 4 months later.
Okay.
So I was officially like a red belt when I took over the school. Then I got my black belt and lived in the school. I have a tiny little school, 900 square feet. Well, I slept in it, I think, for the first year and a half.
Wow. And
then you kind of grew from there. Then I was really fortunate to be able to be introduced to a lot of self-development seminars. I got into some martial art groups. I got into EFC, and through EFC, I met a lot of great martial artists, educational funding company. Okay. Then I got involved in PSI, or PSI, which is people synergistically involved. Mm-hmm. Then I was involved in EST. Then it became Forum. Then it became, Landmark. Yep. Yeah, and all these seminars, and Tony Robbins seminars, and all kind of guided me through more character development. But the one that really was, my heart was in it, and I still follow it to now, is going to Utah and being certified for the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with Stephen Covey. So that was like the thing that really got me aligned and taught me about roles and goals. Okay. And how to manage my time better, the listening skills. And I translate all those in fighting. The whole thing about the 7 habits, being proactive and begin with the end in mind, and, all that stuff. So that was my character development really came from that.
Wow, very cool. So then, that first year living in your school and trying to make it go. So what? I'm assuming a lot of those seminars and trainings you did, was that kind of the turning point that helped turn your school around too?
Exactly. Okay. Absolutely. And EFC, because I got exposed to martial arts and some role models, that to this day I look up to, like Dave Kovar and those guys who are running successful martial arts schools, and they're great martial artists. because the whole thing was, well, if the guy's really successful, then martial arts can't be that good, or the other way around, or whatever. But that idea was quickly went away, because I saw some schools that were like, oh no, these guys are successful and they're great martial artists,
Yep.
that I still, keep in touch with.
Now you obviously continued to grow your style, and so what was after learning forms? What was the next kind of style or instructor you seeked out?
The next thing was Filipino martial arts.
Okay.
I think I had met Graciela, and she introduced me to some of the Filipino martial arts. Then I started training with Ron Balicki about Filipino martial arts. Then Sensei Benny happened. So Sensei Benny, when he closed the Jet Center, there was an opportunity for him to come to us, and I started boxing and kickboxing with him. And when the Gracie thing happened with the whole grappling thing, I wanted to take lessons, and the person that was really close to me was David Myers. So I started at nights once a week, just taking privates from him he was teaching at that time at the Machado School, Azhakh Machado School. So once a week. So I continue doing that with David, which to this date, I still love grappling. I still train with the Hegan Machado.
Nice.
And because David moved to up north. But absolutely, I met some great teachers who really understood and appreciate the art of teaching, like John Will. John Will really opened my eyes into not only martial arts, grappling, but really the art and the art of teaching.
Yes.
The science of teaching, how he broke things down, he set things up, and so that was really cool.
Okay. And now the current location of your school, and how many, from that first school you opened, how many times have you moved, and how has your location changed and grown?
I think we've gone through 2 locations. We were, after the first school, we went to another small school. Then right away, we went to our big school that we were there for 30 years.
Wow.
And only about 7 years ago, we moved to our location now that we're at. And so, yeah.
What could someone expect if they were to come and just maybe sit in and just watch a class, or what kind of stuff would they expect to see in one of your classes?
They're definitely going to see the variety of martial arts systems kind of mixed together. You're going to see a lot of kicking. The way I personally believe boxing is the most superior way of using your hands. Nothing against other martial arts, but so we box a lot. We kickbox a lot. We do a lot of joint manipulations, a lot of ground fighting. We don't do a whole lot of stuff in the air anymore. So everything you're either hitting the bag or speed bag or a wooden dummy, or there's always contact, even with the little kids. Right from the beginning, they'll learn how to do that.
How many students do you have, and how often do you teach right now?
I teach I'm on the floor every day from 4 to 8.
Wow.
We're running about 420 right now, but before COVID, we were up to close to 1,000.
Wow.
At that one location that but our location right now can handle up to 1,000. But COVID did so much damage to everyone.
Yes.
And but right now we're recovering and we're coming back. So I'm just starting to travel more, doing a lot more seminars. I was just in Germany, did 6 different seminars over there. And so my goal right now is, of course, grow the school, but I want to travel.
Okay.
I want to see the country. I want to see different countries. I want to see mainly my seminars are how to run a martial arts school, how to create a system-driven martial arts school. At the same time, curriculum design, not touching what they do, but what order they teach stuff and why they teach stuff. Nice. So that's kind of my specialty.
You ever do any seminars in Minnesota?
No, I don't. But you know what? I have cousins in Minnesota.
Really?
Yeah, I have great cousins who own a Persian restaurant in. So let's see. It's just all of a sudden just went down on me. It's a Persian restaurant, and it's in I want to say we're in Minneapolis.
Yeah, like Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
It's close to St. Paul.
Okay.
So let me tell you. I'm going to tell you what city, because I know they're in. And hold on. I forget what it is, but I'll find out. So
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Anyway, so they own I have 6 cousins that live there, and so I was there 4 years ago.
Okay.
But I'm going to try to go every couple of years.
Okay.
I go to. I love it over there. I love the whole idea of the 4 seasons. Over there. And so it's cool.
I don't like winter, so I really don't.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that, because
Ron has a couple really good friends in Minnesota. So when I talk to him, because I know Rick Fay's school is out here, and then who's the other one? Greg Nelson that runs the academy in Minneapolis.
Oh yeah. He's awesome.
He's going to be on the show soon.
Move, man.
Yes, he can. Yeah, and he's a great teacher too. So cool.
Oh, okay. I remember the restaurant is called Caspian Bistro. It's in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, I will definitely put a link for that too.
Is that where you're from?
No, I'm about 3.5 hours away from there. So,
okay.
Yeah, but I do have lots of family and friends down in that area, so I will definitely, I'll definitely give it a plug.
Oh yeah, and if I ever make it down there again, which I know I will, I'll contact you. Maybe we can meet and have a good Persian meal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I said, it's 3.5 hours, but I used to go down that way a lot more often. Before COVID, I used to go down there once a month for a different thing I was doing, but not as often anymore. But also, almost all of our kids are out of the house, so it'll be a little easier now.
Are you a school owner yourself? You have a school?
No, I do not. I should have. So kind of a similar situation. So when I was a red belt, my instructor offered me a school, and at the time, literally my son was just about to be born, and timing was not right. And over the years, I think he offered me a school probably, or to take over an existing one or to start a new one 5 or 6 or 7 times, and every time I had to say no. And finally, about 7-8 years ago, I heard him talking to another student, and to them, I'm like, well, God, why didn't he offer it to me? And I started thinking, well, yeah, because I say no every time. And so I went and talked to him and asked him the details. And this time I was like, you know what? I think I can make it work. I'm going to say yes. And we started planning it. We went and found the location. And it was about 6 weeks before we were going to actually launch everything, and I re-injured my knee. I blew my knee out when I was 16, and it's always been kind of an issue, and ended up on crutches and stuff. And I was just like, I kind of took it as a sign. I'm like, sir, maybe this just isn't meant for me. Maybe I'm not supposed to run a school. And I felt horrible. And he understood, he understood and stuff. But whenever I can help teach class, I love doing that. And I do private lessons a lot with students. If there's a student who I know needs help or wants extra practice, I'll always offer it. Like, hey, if you want to come in on a weekend, no charge, just let's go in there and I'll help you in any way I can. And I love doing that. Like I said, from a young age, I always wanted to open my own school, and it never worked out, unfortunately. So, but I'm lucky. I have an amazing instructor that, I've studied multiple styles. I've been in my core system is traditional Taekwondo. I've been with that instructor since 1994, so 30 years. I've taken time off, obviously, with family and 3 kids and injuries and jobs and stuff, but I did Tong Sudo when I was little. I did Shotokan when I was in high school. I did Aikido when I was in college. I moved to California for a year and did American Kempo. I've done a little bit of Hapkido. I've done some boxing and things like that, but it just wasn't for me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, like I said, I go when I can, and now that we have one kid left in the house. She's got 1 year left of high school, and I'm hoping I can, now that she's a senior and I don't have to be driving her around as much as when she was younger, I can maybe, if the knee holds up, start going back a little more full time, because I definitely miss it. I mean, I'll go a lot on my lunch breaks because I have a key for the gym, so I'll go in on my lunch breaks and practice, and I'll hit the bag, and so I'm still doing it, just not full time like I wish I could, but life gets in the way.
There you go.
Cool. So think back to when you were a red belt, when you first opened your own school, to now. Over all these years, what has changed the most about your teaching style?
Well, first of all, I don't know if I really knew how to teach. I think just because that's the biggest misconception. People think just because they got their black belt they can teach. Mm-hmm. And I've learned to look at teaching as a whole different art. That just like learning how to run a business and learning how to teach, they should be before you become your black belt. You get your black belt. Yeah. Because if you want to open up a school, because learning what to do is not that hard. Technically stuff is not that hard, but learning how to run your business like a business and really teaching with the whole understanding the art of teaching. I just thought just because I know that other people should know also. So I didn't know the whole idea of the learning modalities or teaching styles and breaking things down and setting the student up for success and to have enlightenment, and not just be a coach or instructor who motivates them. Yeah. It really sets them up for success, and not right now, but later. And that's something that I've learned from Sensei Benny is, so when I teach, I want you to get the lesson 6 months from now, but I'm going to do 5, 6 different things. So when that moment comes, there'll be an enlightenment moment. You go, oh, that's what that is. Nice. And that, it's a job of a teacher, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
At least in my opinion.
So how long has your longest student been with you?
Oh, that's funny. I have a few of them. So Mr. Bill, who God been with me for at least 30 years. Mr. Roberts been with me. He's a 3rd-degree black belt for like 32, 33 years. There's a few of these guys who've been, with me for a long time. But I've never looked at that when somebody stays with you that long as a sign of success for the school.
Right.
Because I want my black belts to go out there.
Yeah.
You can get your black belt with me, 1st or 2nd degree, but I want you to go out there because I'm not the only one. Our art is not the only one. If you truly want martial arts, you got to go out there and find, what matches your body type and what you love, So I'm not into, the whole, people stay with you for 30 years. I don't, like I always, when people ask me, they've been doing martial arts for 30 years, I want to correct them and say, sir, you studied martial arts for 2 years. You've been doing the same thing for 28 years. Like that's not studying martial arts. You can say I've been practicing martial arts. That's fine. But if you're studying it, then you better know about a lot more than just your system.
Yeah.
So.
Have any of your students gone on to open their own schools?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I have probably a dozen of them.
Oh, cool.
So couple that I still keep in touch with, couple who don't like me, and couple who just went out there and do their thing with or without my blessing. But it's okay. I don't even think about that anymore because I have so many good students, so many good people that there's always going to be a percentage who are out there doing their own thing, and I just leave them to heaven. God bless them and leave them to heaven. I don't give it any attention.
What percentage of your class is kids versus adults?
I'd say probably 60 to 40.
Okay.
But, actually, I should say maybe 35, 30. And I'll tell you why. Okay. 35% kids, 35% teens, 30% adults.
Okay.
I'm really big on teens because about 10 years ago, I started learning parkour. So I started bringing parkour into our teen curriculum. And that made a huge difference in our curriculum. So instead of doing forms, they're learning parkour, which is extremely principle based.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not opinion based. You know what I mean? So it's it's not like people can do a form and they look fine and you pass them because they know a form. But parkour is about overcoming obstacles.
Right.
And they put the vault box in front of you. You got to do a safety vault over it. Well, you can't have your own version of it. That's why it's so principle based that you either clear it or you don't. There's no like, well, he's been coming for a long time. He's a kind of good kid. You got to pass him. You can't.
Yeah.
That's what we have. Very principle based techniques. Like we have a rope. You have to climb a rope. Well, good luck faking that.
Yeah.
You can't. You either climb it or you don't. Right? Or push-ups, for that matter, or pull-ups. Having things that are principle driven rather than opinion driven. So anyway, so that parkour really helped us get a lot of the teams to stay in.
That's really cool. That's something my son has interest in, is parkour. He's goes to school in Salt Lake City right now, and I know he's been looking into that a little bit. He's been doing a lot of climbing, but he's also looking into parkour. So
it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Rock climbing, the whole thing. I mean, those are all they're all great. All great.
Nice. So, do you have a favorite weapon that you train with?
Knife.
That seems to be a lot more common answer now. A lot more common.
Yeah, because it's practical. In California, we can carry it, which is great.
Do you have a favorite type of knife that you like?
I like cold steel knives. I like to fold it, and but I always check with Ron, which knives and stuff, and he's the one that kind of helps me, and teaches me how to use the knife. So knife is by far, and with Graciela, because she's a firearm instructor.
Yep.
So for last year, I've been taking lessons in firearms. So that's been a really a kind of a passion for me also.
I know when I interviewed her, she had mentioned that she's hopefully going to be having a new signature knife coming out.
Yeah, she's been talking to Cold Steel about making that happen, which would be great.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That'd be kind of cool. So I noticed when I was looking up that you've written couple books. Talk about, well, first of all, where your interest in writing came from, and then talk about your books.
Well, actually, it wasn't so much a couple books. I just did one that it was just mainly my experiences in teaching.
Okay.
So they're like short stories, which right now I made them all into video logs, and they're all on my YouTube channel. It's called Stories with Sensei. So they're like, it was a one book, but I have all my curriculum into different books. So I have a whole book for junior curriculum, one for teen, one for adult. So again, we're very much like a school,
Mm-hmm.
and the little book has the curriculum, has a certificate in there, has all the information in there. So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
So if you go to Amazon, search for it, you can see them. They're all there.
And what's that one called?
So Open Hands is my book. That's the stories, and you can look for success journals, and those are my success journals. Are all on Amazon.
Yeah, I was reading. It says Open Hands was it was inspired by Joe Hyam's Zen in the Martial Arts. That's kind of cool.
Absolutely, yeah. Joe Hyams, I had the pleasure to meet him in person. This was wonderful. And his wife wrote the first chapter of my book.
Oh, very
After
cool.
he passed away, his wife actually wrote, because I was really moved by, Zen in the martial arts and the whole idea, character building. And that was kind of like what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I'll have to add that one to my list. I'll have to check that one out. That looks cool. I never got to meet Joe, but if you know Tom Bleeker.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tom was my very first guest on the show over 3 years ago.
That's cool. So. Yeah, he's the one that wrote Sensei Benny's book.
Yes.
And so he wrote that. And, did he tell you about the first book he wrote on Bruce Lee also?
Yep, The Unsettled Matters. He actually, when it was out of print, that's how I first met him, when it was out of print, like 15 years ago. He actually sent me a free PDF copy because he saw me on a message board talking about it and trying to find a copy, and he sent me a free PDF copy. So when I started the podcast, I reached out. I'm like, hey, I'm not sure if you remember me, but would you want to do an interview? And he's like, sure, love to. So it was kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. He's a good guy.
Yeah, super good guy. And what about? I saw you got like some training. I know you mentioned like the YouTube channel, and it looks like you also released some DVDs at one point.
Well, yeah, I did the original. Do you remember Panther Productions?
Oh yeah,
I did the Hapkido series.
Nice.
So I was the first person who did it, who raised hell between all the Koreans right away, because everybody thought, who is this guy, coming in teaching the Korean art. But you know what? I did it. I'm glad I did it. I wish I had a chance to do some of this stuff over again, but I don't, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And to this day, still people enjoy it. And I have an app that I teach all my curriculum on.
Oh, cool.
It's available to everybody. And so, I did the first videos, a whole bunch of DVDs, online training, and my YouTube channel, obviously.
Very cool. And I will put links for all that too when the episode comes out.
Oh, cool. Yeah, please do.
Is it teamkaratecenter.com? That's your website, right? For your school?
Yeah. Team Karate Center is a school. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I will put that on there too. And you had mentioned, I think you mentioned a daughter. So do you have kids?
Yes, I have 2 daughters and a son.
Okay. Did they all get involved in martial arts?
Both of my daughters are black belt, and my son likes to box a lot.
Oh, nice.
And so he didn't really continue his martial arts. But my daughters are, they kind of go in and out. They were on it when they were like 6 months, all their life. So, they got into teens and adulthood, and it wasn't so cool anymore,
Yeah.
But it's just so funny that you asked, because last night was the first time both of my daughters were in a class.
Oh, wow.
And it was so fun. It was so nice to see them. And there's a part of me so proud because they still got it,
Yeah.
Like they're just, good girls. And so it was nice to see both of them in a class, but it just happened after all these years, happened to be last night. And so it was kind of cool.
I'm trying to think if my 3 kids were ever in a class together. I know 2 of them, any combination of 2 of them, but I don't remember if I ever had all 3 of them in a class together. So I'd have to go back and think, because let's see, my oldest son stopped when he was about 14. So that would have been like 2013, and my daughter was born. So maybe for a very short time, all 3 of my kids were in a class together, but they would have been very little.
Yeah.
So they all started when they were 5, and they all, kind of went roughly 7 to 8 years. Each of them, maybe 9 years at the most, but hopefully they'll come back to it at some point. I'm fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, it's with them forever.
Yes. Yes.
It just,
and they left it for other interests, which is important. They other sports,
absolutely.
So what are your thoughts then on something like MMA and the UFC? Is that something you're a fan of?
I am because I think the UFC was the best thing and the worst thing that happened to martial arts.
Yep.
I personally think it was the best thing because it got rid of a lot of BS. People say, "Well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that," and now it's like, "Well, go do it in a cage," And so it kind of shut a lot of people down, who are just not, the technically, up to par. But at the same time, I think it took away a little bit of the character building, the bowing, and all that stuff. That was I think it's invaluable,
Yeah.
But then there's again people who still have that and they show it.
Yeah.
And so once in a while you see somebody coming in and like Machida, who just this guy is so classy and is a great fighter too. So it's I'm glad to see that. But altogether, it's like history repeats itself. The two most oldest businesses in the world are still, thriving, which is prostitution and cockfighting.
Yeah.
So these two businesses will never go away, and people, but it became an entertainment, people like to, and the other thing you opened up a venue or avenue for keyboard fighters.
Yeah.
Who are like, the warriors, but they're behind their keyboard, having opinions and all that stuff. So in that aspect, I just, like I said, some of this stuff, you just got to give it its appropriate attention,
Right.
Nothing more than that.
Yeah. I used to be a diehard fan. I actually used to judge MMA. I judged probably 1,000 fights over the years when I was doing that. And I remember when I first started judging, I'd say 70 to 80% of them, they'd bow when they came in. And by the time I was getting towards the end of my judging career, you'd maybe see one at an event that would actually go in there and bow. It was just completely different. And, it went from being style versus style to just people who train in only MMA, and it's not actually a martial art. It's just fighting.
Right.
That's one thing I know. Benny, when I interviewed Benny, that's kind of the same question I asked him, and he said that he just felt that it took the budo out of martial arts, and I thought that was a good way to put it. So, in all your years of martial arts, is there one philosophy you've learned or developed that is at the top of your list?
Yes, humanity first.
Nice.
I think doesn't matter what we do, doesn't matter what we follow, doesn't matter what it is. As long as we're not teaching sheep. Even with sheep, we still should use humanity. But when we deal with human beings, we should remember human first. Systems are great, business is great, success is great, but people should come first. And I think just being human, because we are, right? We're being human. We're not human doings. We're human beings. So to be a human, and I think that's a major principle before anything else.
Nice. How about worst martial arts related injury?
I think having broken ribs
ouch. Okay.
was pretty bad because I got psychicked. I think that was pretty bad. I've cut myself with commas, so I've stitches my hands. They're stitched up, and just a bunch of little things that broke. I don't have any feelings over my toes. My shin got broken. But I think the worst one was the broken ribs because it's kind of hard to breathe.
Yeah.
So that's the most painful one, I think.
Luckily, I've never had that yet. I've taken some hard side kicks, but luckily no broken ribs, so that's good. Okay. Now this doesn't have to be 4. I've asked this question. I've had people give as few as 2 and as many as 8, but like 3, 4, 5 names you would put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts.
I think Steve Sexton, my teacher.
Nice.
Sensei Benny for sure. Ron Balicki, David Myers, Grandmaster Henry Lee, who is the head of the Hapkido Association.
Okay.
Ji Han Jae, which is the Hapkido Grandmaster, which was really influential in my training. Graciela Casillas by far. So Higan Machado. These guys were the people that really make a difference in my martial arts. But before all that, of course, Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Who kind of started the whole thing, So
Definitely.
that'll be it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now I know you kind of said we talked a little bit about MMA, and this is just kind of a fun question. If you were to step into the cage and fight, what song would be playing as you walked in? What would your walk up music be?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think maybe the Rocky song. Anything to get me motivated.
There you go.
or bang me on top of the head thinking, what the hell are you doing?
I think you're the third or fourth person that said the Rocky song, so that's a popular one. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. How about a favorite martial arts book?
Zen and the Martial Arts.
Nice. That's actually the one I usually say is mine too. So I love that book. All right. And this one, maybe you don't have an answer for, but do you have a favorite martial arts video game? Did you ever get into video games?
I never did.
Okay.
I was never into that. So sorry.
No worries. That's about 50-50. A lot of people never played video games. So, all right. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
TV show? No. Movies. I mean, obviously Karate Kid and Enter the Dragon.
Yep.
But TV shows, not really. I can't even name one. Actually, no, I should say that. I like Warrior.
Oh, yes.
Great. I think Shannon Lee's doing a great job with the Warrior, the series. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm really hoping Netflix gives it one more season. Fingers crossed. It's such an amazing show, and so I'm hoping to have Shannon on the show someday to talk about it. I'm really, really hoping. But I watched it. I remember I was like, I don't know if this will be good. I'm just going to watch one episode, and next thing you know, I'm 6 episodes in. It's like, okay, this is really good. Yeah. And Karate Kid, that's actually mine too. When you're talking about movies, that Karate Kid, that's what got me started. So I was 10 years old, 1984, and I saw the Karate Kid and joined 2 days later. So that's kind of cool.
Exactly, right?
Yeah. Did you ever watch like Kung Fu as a kid or Sidekicks when it was on in the 80s or Highlander?
No, but
okay.
I've seen a couple of the Sidekicks because I'm a good friend with Ernie Jr.
Nice.
So he's actually very close to me. So we see each other often. And really, Ernie Sr. will be another one of my definitely role models. And as far as teaching and stuff, and Tom Callis and Dave Kovar. Tom Callis and Dave Kovar are like my main two guys, the go-to guys that I go to for any challenges that I have personally or business-wise. Those are the two guys that I go to.
Nice. Yeah, I've never met Tom. Dave was on the show, but I've never met Tom. And I actually met Ernie Reyes Jr. and Sr. at the Diamond Nationals, and it was either 91 or 92. They were there promoting the movie Surf Ninjas.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
I got to meet them both, so that was kind of fun. And
I highly recommend you to have a thing with Tom Callis.
Okay.
Tom Callis is like a teacher's teacher, who has a whole different kind of a green look at teaching martial arts.
Nice.
And the whole idea of getting a black belt, which is pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, I will look him up. He'd be fun to talk to. And I'm hoping to have Ernie Jr. on the show. I had actually reached out to him when I first started the show, and he said yes. And then he ended up having his health issues, and I haven't been able to reach him since. So I'm hoping that, his godchild, Carmichael Simon, was a guest on the show too. Yeah, and he's going to hopefully try to reach out to him for me. But yeah, he'd be a fun one to talk to.
Oh, absolutely, he would love that, and he's such a good guy.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, I'll definitely mark down Tom, and hopefully I can reach out to him. That'd be kind of fun. But now, this doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've ever seen, a favorite movie fight scene?
Fight scene?
Yep, fight scene.
I'd probably say John Wick.
Nice. Okay.
And some of the stuff they're doing over there is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that gets picked a lot. So I'm curious then for you now. I mean, being in the area and near the industry, did you ever have any thoughts of trying to get into movies yourself?
No. I don't think I was good looking enough, and nobody wanted the Iranian person to be out there. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it wasn't. It was never part of my goals.
Okay.
And I never made it important enough to go after. So not really, but I've known a lot of people who are in it, and I appreciate it. But it wasn't my thing.
Okay. So what's next for you? What are future plans or any other big projects you have coming up or anything?
Traveling. I think the biggest thing is traveling and seeing different martial arts schools.
Okay.
And taking my school back to 1,000 active students. Those are the two things that I work on myself. So that would be my goal.
Okay. And the final question: is there anyone out there that you haven't had the chance to train with yet that you'd like to?
I really, I would tell you honest the truth. All the people that I've really always wanted to take, I listened to, I've reached out and I got a hold of them and I trained with them.
Nice.
So I'd say no, but there's one, I don't know the name, but I've been on Instagram. I follow this one Japanese guy he did a movie, I want to say Obo Q or something. But I see some of his Instagram stuff and he looks really good.
Nice.
And some of the stuff he teaches are really solid. It's a Japanese system, but the way he does some of this stuff is pretty cool.
Okay.
So I'm going to, my goal is to make it important enough to find out who this guy is and where he is, and see if I can kind of seek him out.
Nice. That is very, very cool. Well, before I let you go, anything that I forgot to ask you, or you just want to be sure we get out there before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, that's pretty much what I do. And, what I have to offer is, and the whole thing about going back to being a good human being.
Okay.
With all this stuff, nasty stuff going on in the world right now between cultures and countries, I think more than ever, we need to appreciate peace and live peace and teach peace. But personally, I'm not against violence. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds weird, but I'm all peace, everything peace, but I'm not against violence.
Right.
And sometimes that's necessary. But, we just need to go back and really work on more peace than anything else.
Yeah.
And that starts with ourselves, with our hearts, with our language, with the way we make jokes, or anything that, involves other cultures. So I think that would be the main thing we should, as a human first, then of course, as a teacher.
Yeah. I'd say maybe you would say you're against unnecessary violence.
Exactly.
Might be a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, seriously, this has been so much fun. Like I said, I know we tried to plan it for quite a while, and I'm glad we finally made it happen. I've loved hearing your story, and I really think the listeners are going to love this one.
Thank you so much. I look forward to the feedback. I'll send you my app also. You can download the app, and you can actually read my book. All of them are on the app, all the stories.
Oh, cool.
And you can look at the curriculum, some of the stuff that we've done. And so, let's keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. I will do that, and I will let you know when the episode's ready to come out.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.